Hello, everyone. Glad that you're here today. This is the Montessori Family Support Gathering, and it is sponsored by the Montessori Foundation. It's a group that we have opened during this difficult time of pandemic and coronavirus to help support parents who are at home with their children because schools are closed. And it looks like, by the way, that school's going to be closed for the rest of this school year. Around the United States anyway. I don't know in other countries if that's also true. So we will be with our children 24/7 and trying to juggle all the other hats and other things that we have to do. So one of the things that I believe would be helpful to all of you and to other families is family meetings. It's a great tool or strategy for families. And it gives families a chance to talk and communicate with each other at a neutral moment. And sometimes what happens when we are all under stress and in situations that are different, that have changed, that we are not familiar with or comfortable with, we tend to respond to our children when something is happening that we're not necessarily very happy with. and so when we try to do that, usually it doesn't come off very well. Usually we're reacting instead of responding, and everybody gets emotional, and then the problem just gets bigger instead of trying to work things out and solve it. If you put family meetings into your regular routine of life in your family, then it allows everybody in the family to have a time that's what we like to call a neutral moment, a time to chat about things, problem solve, during a time when nothing is happening, when nobody is upset with anybody else, when emotions are just calm and everybody's okay. So that's why I feel like family meetings are a really important thing all the time, but particularly during these times when our emotions are kind of right there near the surface during this particular time. So last week we talked a lot about what family meetings are for, and another thing that they give families a time to do is a special time when the whole family is having fun together. And that's an important key piece to this whole idea of us all being together. We are together, but we're trying to work. We're trying to teach our children things because we think we have to be teachers now at home. We're trying to get our children to be independent, and maybe they're not used to being independent at home. And so that's kind of a struggle for some people. But so we're not necessarily just enjoying each other's company. We've got lots of other things going on too. And sometimes some of the families enjoying each other's company while others are off doing work. So it's not the whole family having fun together. And a family meeting always ends with a fun time together. So I'm going to stop for a second, maybe. Okay, yes. All right. So problem solving, family meetings also are really important for helping all the family members realize that each of them has a voice and each of them is really important. So those are some main things to think about when you think in terms of family meetings. The benefits are we're important, we have opinions and ideas that matter, we respect each other and we create a safe space for each other to speak. And those are some of the wonderful things. Now, the last time that I was on, I gave everybody a blank family meeting agenda, and I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, share. Okay, can everybody see that? All right. I do not know how to put this up in a way that you can have a copy of it. So if you would like to have a copy of it, you know what you can do? You can actually email me and I will be happy to mail that to you, email that back to you. And hopefully you have my email address. So this is what I gave you last week. And people said, well, what are these groups of things? You've got acknowledgements and or appreciation. So here we go. The very first part of the meeting, whoever is the leader of the meeting starts the meeting with acknowledgements and or appreciations. We do share leadership, by the way, at family meetings. Each family member, unless they're tiny, 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 like Larissa's baby that she has with her, everybody gets to be the leader. Usually they could start being leaders, I don't know, somewhere around 4.5, 5 years old. They'll need a little help from you in terms of leading a meeting, but we always started the family meetings with the oldest person. So the oldest person was my husband, and he knew how to run a meeting. So he was the model for the facilitation of that meeting. The next week, I was the next oldest. So guess what? I got to be the leader of the meeting. So the kids had 2 leaders that knew how to lead a meeting, model that before they actually had their turns. And my daughter was 5 and my son was 8 when we started doing these. And you know, they did pretty well, but sometimes they need a little help because they tend to let things kind of go on and on and on and don't move on to the next thing. But the family meeting leader starts with acknowledgements and appreciations. And again, remember that little kids don't really get that that's about how people act and how they feel rather than how they look. So lots of times a little child will go, Mommy, I really like your scarf today. Well, that's not exactly what we are talking about when we're talking about acknowledgements and appreciations. We're talking about, Susie, you were so helpful today when you set the table for dinner. I really appreciate your help. Or Johnny, you were so quiet for such a long time today. I got a lot of work done. That really helped me get my work done. So the children are going to need to learn how to appreciate and what to appreciate, and that'll happen over time. If they say that they like your scarf, you can say thank you, and was there anything that I did or said this week that helped you out or made you happy or you know, or anything like that. And so you kind of help them to learn how to do that. The reason we do that is because everybody sits up a little straighter and a little prouder after they've been acknowledged. And I'll tell you a story. One time we went to a restaurant with my 2 children, my husband, and my mom and my dad. And we had been doing family meetings for quite some time before that. And it wasn't a family meeting. It was just, we went out to dinner together. And, you know, we were waiting for our food and the conversation sort of came to sort of a lull. And all of a sudden, my son looked at his grandmother and he goes, you know, Grandma, I really like it when you come to visit with us because you really spend a lot of time listening and talking to me. And then guess what? My mother sat up a little straighter and taller and felt really good about herself. And my daughter piped up and she goes, you know, Daddy, it was really great this week when we got to wash the car together. I don't know. I'm making this up, gang. And so that was one. And it went around the table at the restaurant. Everybody just acknowledged each other without any prompting or anything like that. So that also is a benefit of family meetings. People remember to acknowledge and appreciate each other, whether they're in a family meeting or in a restaurant at a meal. The second part of the agenda is Let's Talk. And Let's Talk is the part of the meeting agenda where if someone has had something that they want to problem solve about, that goes right there in that part of the meeting. That is the place where whatever they've written on the agenda during the week gets to be talked about at the family meeting. And by the way, we don't solve problems in the middle of the week. We wait until the family meeting. But I'll tell you what, sometimes somebody will put a problem on there, and when you get to the family meeting on the day of, that person will go, oh, well, you know what? We already took care of that. We've got that straightened out. We don't need to talk about that today. That's okay. And that's why we wait. because sometimes problems work themselves out. People figure out how to work their things out together without bringing it to the family meeting. The next part is what's up. And that's after you've done some problem solving. The leader says, okay, time for what's up. What's up for you, Mom? And that would be my turn to say what was going to be going on for me during the week that week. And each person in the family gets to say something that's going to be coming up for them. And that way, each of the family members can support the other ones in the group. And then the fourth part is family fun. And family fun happens after you adjourn the meeting. That's when the clock starts ticking for family fun, because family meetings should not last more than 15 minutes. You want the family meetings to be relatively short. If you notice the kids getting super, super antsy, I say do the hokey pokey and end the meeting. Because if you try to force kids to stay in that meeting for a very long time, they're not going to want to come back. So you want them to want to come back, and that's why we end with family fun. Family fun, the leader or the facilitator of the meeting gets to say what the family fun is going to be for that day, and everybody else agrees that they will participate. So it should not be a really long thing, like a game of Monopoly. If you've ever played Monopoly, you know it can take hours. That's not the kind of family fun we're talking about. You might say, the family leader might say, I want to spend 10 minutes with the whole family working on the jigsaw puzzle that's on the dining room table. Or I want to spend a little time, let's make ice cream sundaes for dessert. Let's spend some time in the kitchen putting those together. I want to take a short walk. I want everybody play out in the backyard for 10 minutes. Usually family fun doesn't last more than 10 or 15 minutes also. So remember that as a guide for that part of it. Helpful hints are, I'm going to put up a new handout because, oh, hello, screen sharing stopped. All right, I'm going to put up helpful hints. Oh no, that's a different one. You can't see that, but never mind, I can. There we go. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to screen share with you. And we'll see how that goes. All right, okay, share. There we go. Everybody see family meetings, helpful hints? All right. First meeting should last only 5 to 10 minutes, and it's really just about defining and creating an agreement about meetings and closing with family fun. First couple of meetings should be just about fun stuff. Try not to do problem solving in the first couple of meetings. Gets a little too heavy for the kids and they won't want to come back. Meetings should last no longer than 15 minutes. 20 minutes is stretching it. If you have very young children, meaning 3 years old and younger, don't expect them to participate in the meeting, but they should be there. And they should have toys or things, some things that they can keep busy with. But they should be in earshot, one, for safety, and two, so that they are taking in, remember, they're like little sponges. They take in everything that's going on around them. So they're taking in that the rest of the family is actually having a meeting and doing, talking with each other and working problems out. Another one, learn how to brainstorm together. It's a helpful skill for family members to have. Be comfortable and committed. Don't be too comfortable, but comfortable. Create an agreement about the day and the time that the meeting will be and stick to it. And make an agreement that if somebody misses a meeting, that they will abide by whatever solutions people have come up with. And this is one of the times when, of course, our virtual meetings are very helpful. Not now, because most people are home, but sometimes parents have to go travel for their work or whatever they're doing, and they can actually show up virtually. Let's see. Okay, we talked about that. Don't have family meetings during mealtime. some people think, oh, everybody's going to be together anyway, so we'll eat and have a family meeting. No, that would be like, in some ways, it would be like driving a car and having a family meeting. Your full and undivided attention is not on your family. It's on eating and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So do not have family meetings during meals. Post the agenda on the refrigerator during the week so people can put things down on the agenda. And enjoy your time together. So I'm going to turn that off. Let's see if I can do that. Yes, okay. I think that I've probably, have I used up my time? My people that are helping me today, am I done? And I can open it up to questions and comments. Everyone's nodding, okay. So this is the part of our gathering where you all certainly can, well, one, tell us if you've ever had a family meeting. Oh, let's see, Laura says, please share that helpful hints via, well, let's see what Laura, can anybody see?
Laura, I think what Lorna was suggesting was that you all email her and then she'll send it to you. Is that right, Lorna?
Yeah.
Rather than you emailing the participants, that people would email you.
Right.
At, let's see if I've got it, at Lorna McGrath at Montessori, no. Montessori.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, put that in the, I'm going to put it in the chat, Christine.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I have somebody in the chat that says, my kids have community meetings at Montessori school. We haven't done family meetings yet. Yes. And if you have children who are elementary age, they will be very good at these kinds of meetings because generally they've been having meetings like that if they've been in Montessori school all along since they were 3 years old. And when they get to elementary, they get even more like a real meeting. We at 3 to 6 call it group time. We do a lot of singing and a lot of finger plays, and we do chat about problems sometimes if we have things that come up in the classroom, but that's really just more organized and formal at the elementary age and up. So your children will be very used to this. Yeah. So does anybody want to say anything? You can unmute yourself and ask questions or make comments or anything.
I have a question.
Sure, Tracy.
Just being that I grew up with family time myself as a child, but it was, you know, the family was busy and everything else like that, but we would gather together on Fridays and do our family meet. And the time that we're in right now, and I'm just wondering, you know, everybody is still busy doing their own thing. Do you think it's going to be as effective because they're there together all the time with one another? Or do you think does it need something, a shift? Does it need anything different because they are spending so much time together? Just wondering if anybody's experiencing it.
That's a great question, Christine. No, not Christine, Tracy, right?
Yes.
That's a great question. You know, you are together all the time, 24/7. We mentioned that. Certainly you are together, but it's such a different way of being together because some people, I would imagine, in your home are trying to work. Your children are also trying, if they're older children, and some of the younger ones too, I suppose, are trying to do some schoolwork. So a family meeting is really a time that's set aside for every member of the family. There's nobody in another room working or doing schoolwork in another room. It's a time when you all agree we can meet together for 15 minutes, you know? And maybe you need to go out in the backyard and meet if the weather's okay, and if you have a backyard. I don't know. I think I would try it and see. Margot, what do you think?
I wanted to say that I think children take great comfort in consistency. And because they're doing it at school, making that transition to home really brings that consistency into the home for them. And they might really get a real sense of security out of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, Margot. And I think also being able to be the leader of the meeting is a really important aspect that doesn't necessarily happen at school, but that would happen at home. So they get that sense of, okay, I have a voice and I have, I can facilitate this meeting. So I think that's also, and it's only going to happen once a week. So back to Margot's consistency and routine thing, they're going to get used to the idea that, okay, once a week, we're going to have this family meeting. And that helps with also that security and stuff too.
Lorna?
John.
Yeah, it's a great question, Tracy. I'm just wondering that given this radical change of lifestyle and families being crunched together, parents trying to work, take care of their children, take care of their home, take care of their finances, my guess is in a lot of families, there's some irritability and tension coming up because, people are in such close proximity and they can't get out and do their normal out in the world recreational things. So I think if that assumption is correct, then the need for family meetings to process, okay, what are you feeling? Let's find a solution to this week.
Oops. John froze on us. Okay, John will come back, don't worry. He just froze for a minute.
I think too that it's about the structure of a family meeting being different than your ordinary, your 23/7.
Okay.
So you have, so you have this one time a week that you have this particular structure and you have this particular agenda and kind of format that's different than just spending time together in the evening, watching TV or whatever it is that you're doing. So it's really about the structure of it and the predictability of that format as well.
And I think also, Christine, I think that's absolutely right. And I think also because you're going to put an agenda on the refrigerator so that people can write in situations that have come up that they would like to problem solve about, that they would like to talk about as a family. I think that's an important aspect of it that's kind of different than probably what's going on typically during the day. Okay. Anybody else have something they'd like to talk about? And it doesn't have to be family meetings, by the way. We're open to any kind of questions that you have or things that have been happening that you're not quite sure what to do about at home or, anything like that. Yeah, quiet group today. Laura. Hi, Laura.
Since we're opening it up, my husband and I have been talking a lot about how we're handling our emotions. And you mentioned this last week with, giving yourself a timeout maybe and trying to figure out what's going on with you. And you mentioned that in the past you were a yeller once, and I feel like we're really pressured a lot more than everyone else. I can't seem to get out of that kind of like vicious downward spiral, really, of where you're listening, you keep doing the same thing over and over. I'm just struggling to keep my cool with my kids, even though they're great kids. I just don't know how the teachers handle that, and I know it's because it's a different environment. They're pushing their boundaries, but
Laura, it's hard to hear you.
Oh, great.
Getting a lot. Did anybody kind of understand what Laura was saying and maybe could help me out with it? Because I was having a really hard time hearing her.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We're getting it.
Let's all mute except for John.
Hopefully my internet will up here at the high school. I think Laura was saying, and I think she brought this up last week, and so many parents are going through this, that you get irritable, you lose it with your kids, but the kids keep on doing some behaviors that are irritating, and it's really hard to get out of that cycle because the children are there, they're acting out, we're reacting. So I think that was the spirit of Laura's question, how to sort of get out of that vicious cycle. Christine?
That is in large part what Lorna and I'm not to punt the question down the road, but that's in large part what Lorna and I are going to talk about tomorrow in the regular Tuesday webinar that is from 1 to 1:30 Eastern, the Family Alliance, and we're going to talk about just that. Your child is chronically reacting to a situation with upset. And we're going to take a look at what are 3 phases that you can use to get to a point of being proactive so that you're, as Lorna said, preventing and responding rather than reacting to an issue. But one thing that I would say just immediately today, if it would help Laura, is to when you feel yourself getting worked up because your children are acting upset in whatever way they're acting upset, that before you interact with them at all, that you take a moment to get yourself kind of prepared. If you have to deal with it, maybe it's something that, if it's not dangerous, maybe it's something that you can let go of for a little bit and see what happens with them and see if they're able to work it out, if it's between the 2 of them. But this idea that we as adults need to do what's called co-regulate is so crucial, because if we're upset, then they are escalating, they're upset, and that escalates us, and then it's just this crazy loop that goes on. So even doing something as simple as turning your back on them, depending on their age and whether it's unsafe or not, but turn your back on them and maybe just take 3 deep breaths, or maybe think, your self-talk is, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to think about what's going on, and then I'm going to choose how I'm going to respond to this.
Christine, just to piggyback on that a little bit, something, Laura, that I share with teachers, because teachers in Montessori classrooms get into certain reactive patterns with children who press their buttons, just like we parents do. So, and I don't know whether this will help you, but you might want to, in a calm moment, not when you're around your children, like late at night when they're in bed, think about a particular incident that happened where you kind of overreacted or lost it a little bit, and just creatively think about, okay, tomorrow if that happens, I'm going to take a completely different approach. I'm going to use a little humor. I'm going to walk away and take a deep breath. So it's actually out of the context in the heat of battle, actually planning a different strategy. I'll give a very quick example. I know a teacher who was having a group of 5-year-olds who thought it was really fun to jump over Montessori work rugs or to walk across them. They were just sort of testing the limits. They were not walking around where children were working. They were jumping over or stepping on the work rugs. And the teacher gave lessons. She had conversations with those children, but these 5-year-olds thought it was just really fun to do that. So one day she came up with a completely different strategy. When these children were near these work rugs and other children, the teacher knelt down and had a conversation with the work rug that went something like this, to the amazement of the children. So this is the rug, with the materials. Work rug, many people are stepping on your body. This must be so painful. It must be hard for people to step on you or jump over you. That must be scary. I hope for the rest of the day, everybody walks around you and nobody jumps over your face or steps on you. And I hope you have a better day. And then she did this, she went, and she gave the work rug a kiss. These 5-year-olds were like, but it worked. It was so out of the box creative, but she had sort of planned that outside the context of the heat of battle, just to think of a completely different strategy that was not a power struggle any longer.
Yeah, John, that's a great story. I love it. When I was teaching parenting course live a few years ago, we talked about what can you do to stop kids from, kind of quarreling and having a difficult time together, as they sometimes do. And one of the things that I said was, okay, one of the things you do is do something unusual, really different. And that's what Jonathan was saying. Well, so this dad went home, and I used to have my classes once a week, and you'd try to do things during the week, the parents would, with their kids. And so he went home that week, and he had listened to me in class, and he came back the next week and he said, Lorna, here's what happened this week. My kids got into an argument, and they would get into the same argument every day, or not the same argument, but they get into an argument every day about the same time. And I was getting really tired of it, and I thought, oh gosh, here they are, they're in the living room and they're quarreling and this and that. What would Lorna do? He said. I don't know what Lorna would do. Oh, where's my book? Oh, I don't have my book. I think I'll just, so he's thinking all this in his head. And so what he did was he went into the living room and he started to march around the living room and sing the Star Spangled Banner. And you all can imagine the kids stopped and looked at their dad like, what are you doing? You're marching around the living room singing the Star Spangled Banner, and the whole thing just kind of ended because it kind of broke. Usually when kids are fighting, I have to tell you, the main thing they're trying to do is to get you involved in it. And so by just doing some kind of a distraction like that, it kind of broke the ice, and there he was, and they were all laughing, and it was just kind of fun. John?
Lauren, I think the trick there is, unless you're into improvisational drama, it can just turn on a dime because you're so relaxed. And we're talking about parents and teachers being under stress at this time. You're not going to figure out those creative strategies, those out-of-the-box, unexpected things that Lorna talked about in the heat of battle. You got to step back and in a quiet moment, okay, tomorrow I'm going to take a completely different strategy with my child when they do that to press my button. It's got to be an offline creative thinking process because we're probably not going to do it when we're stressed out with the children. That's not how the brain works.
Yeah, you're probably right, John.
Lorna, I just wanted to say, you have about 5 more minutes, Lorna.
Okay, thank you. I just want to answer Christine Glover. She says, would that be a kind of redirecting? Yes. Yes, that would be a kind of redirecting. We just call it, you know, it's kind of a distraction in a way, because the fight oftentimes isn't really important to kids. So they don't care if they get interrupted, if you will, or distracted. They just kind of probably needed a break too. So Christine says we have about 5 minutes left.
Lorna, to go back to what you were saying regarding the redirecting,
yeah,
would you also say that in those situations, it's not something that needs like some type of consequence? It's just a matter of just redirecting the energy to something more constructive.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then the other thing is that's not a strategy for like solving a problem with children. It's just a strategy for interrupting that energy and having them sort of disperse. There are other things we would do if they were really having a squabble and we wanted to really disarm it. We might, we have to remember we've got to put them both in the same boat, because sometimes we decide one is older, so they must have been the instigator, or the other one is this, that, or the other. So, you know, we have to put the kids in the same boat. There's a lot of different things that we have to think about, but this is just for stopping whatever's going on right then and changing the energy.
I don't know if this would be relevant to some of the people viewing. I don't know if everyone here is a teacher or a head of school or parents, but I don't know if it would be helpful for them working with their children at home so often now to kind of talk about like a chart or something where we have this situation that is seemingly out of control, but is it maybe the type of situation that just needs a redirection of energy, something simple? Or is this like you were saying, a situation where we need to sit down and have a talk, you know, express our feelings, how I felt about this, or, you know, what would be the level of response to certain situations? Because I think some parents are probably just perhaps get to where the situation keeps happening and they're so frustrated that immediately they just want to go all the way up. When it's like what Jonathan was saying, they just need to step back, go take a shower and think about it for a minute and come up with some better solutions for the situation. So I don't know if that was...
Again, hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. Chris and I know each other. Again, this is one of the things that we're going to talk about tomorrow with a very clear sequence or a very clear stepwise way of looking at, particularly if it's a chronic problem and the reaction to it is chronic, how to look at that to solve the problem. To change things up so that the child is learning skills to better able to deal with that problem.
Christine Glover, I think you really hit the nail on the head. It occurs to me, maybe we need to ask ourselves as parents, is this an energy management moment for myself and for my child? Or is this really teach a lesson moment about better behavior? Yeah. Those are two very different agendas, and usually helping children calm their energy down and helping us calm our energy down is the first construct, if you know how the brain works. Until the emotional, the limbic brain is calm, the neocortex, the frontal lobes, they're not going to learn anything anyway. So trying to teach a child better behavior or this is how you made me feel, that doesn't come first. What comes first is let's just calm ourselves down and then find a quiet place to talk about, what we learned from this. And those are two different times, really.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Okay. Yes. We're going to be sending out a survey to all the folks that have been coming to our gatherings to just get some more information from you so we can better support all of you. So look for those. There are other things coming up this week that the foundation is sponsoring. You can go to the website, www.montessori.org, and there is a box there that says urgent news and messages. So you can see on there all the different things that are being offered free online from the foundation with different people, leading those conversations. So please feel free to do that. We are so happy that you came today. We will probably see you again in not too long a time.